What is up, party people? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamila. This is JemilaBeReadin, because I do be reading. And today I am here to talk about all the books that I read in July. You may have noticed that I have not done a monthly wrap up in like a few months. I actually filmed like a big I think it was like April through June wrap up. And then to be honest, I couldn't get myself to edit it. I just did not care. But here I am now, with a wrap up, and hopefully that will continue on for the rest of the year. I don't know. It's like I love watching wrap ups, but they're not always my favorite thing to like film and edit. But I also want to let you guys know what I'm reading. So I'm here with July. I am planning on doing like a big, like every book I read in 2023 at the end of the year. So if you want to know the stuff that you missed, I will talk about it in that video. And also, if you want to kind of like keep up to date with me and what I'm reading as I'm reading it, you can follow me on Goodreads. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm often posting like what I'm reading on my stories, and I'm post pretty frequently, I think, for the most part, on TikTok, and I do monthly wrap-ups, like shorter versions of them on there. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the books that I read in July. I read 8 books, which felt like a lot to me personally. I feel like I've been averaging like 5 to 6 books, or like 4 to 6 books each month. So July was a reading month for me, even though I was really busy at the beginning of the month. It was my birthday on July 5th. I went to the coast. I hung out with my friends. I just had a lot of stuff going on. A friend came and visited me, and then I got sick, and now I'm here. It's August. I've survived. So let's talk about the books that I read. At the beginning of the month, I read an arc of Play to Win by Jody Slaughter. This is a second chance romance, adult contemporary romance, following Miriam and Leo. They divorced about 8 years ago, and now they are reconnecting after Miriam has won the lottery. She gets like a financial advisor, lawyer, and the lawyer is like, hey, you're still technically married. Like, they never actually like got divorced. And so like he has rights to your money. So I suggest you reach out to him and give him some, so that he isn't entitled to like 50% of your winnings. So that's what she does, and then they reconnect. Obviously, it's a second chance romance. I think you know where this is going. This is my first time reading from this author, and I enjoyed this book. I think I enjoyed everything except for the romance, which you might be thinking, well, that doesn't bode well for this book. I still gave it a 3.75 stars because I really connected to like everything else that was going on. I didn't really care about them getting back together. I don't know if they necessarily should have gotten back together, but I liked their individual journeys. I liked watching them interact with their friends and their family and their community, and what that means to them, and dealing with their mental health, and talking about therapy and all of that stuff. I really enjoyed. I just didn't care for the romance. So if you take it as like just like a contemporary novel, highly recommend. I don't recommend this like as a romance. So take with that what you will. Yeah. Also, this book is out now if you want to pick it up. I was really on a romance kick, and I really wanted to like tackle my romance books because I just feel like I have a bunch. I get sent books through like Berkeley and Avon's like influencer like program, so I get sent books like every month, and I just feel like they've been accumulating, and I wanted to tackle them. So I picked up Do You Take This Man by Denise Williams. This is another new to me author. I've heard good things about her previous books. Unfortunately, this one did not leave a great impression on me. I think ultimately I give this like a 3-star. Depending on my mood, I can move it down to a 2.75 star. So this is following divorce attorney by day, wedding officiant by night, RJ. She starts officiating weddings after a video of her officiating like an unplanned wedding goes viral, and then everyone wants to hire her to officiate their wedding. So she kind of does this through the summer. But she primarily is an attorney, and she's like really intense about it and doesn't believe in love because she's a divorce attorney. You get the picture. And then we have Lear, who used to plan events for a professional football team, but leaves due to some circumstances and ends up helping his sister's wedding planning business. So that's how RJ and Lyra interact with each other, because she is officiating a lot of the weddings for this wedding planning business, and they butt heads at first, and then they start to work well together, and then it's a romance. I feel like you already know where it's heading. I just did not care about either of them. I found both of them to be annoying in different ways. I don't really think they work together all that well, and I just thought this was kind of boring. So, yeah. I wanted to pick up a nonfiction, and I'd been seeing this around on TikTok and on Instagram. Mainly, I'd seen Nathan from Schizophrenic Reads talking about this book. I believe he actually interviewed the author, so I wanted to check it out. Plus, I am just so deeply fascinated by the MLM world. Honestly, I've watched so much anti-MLM content. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, so I was very excited to pick up this book. Hey Hun. I think it has a longer title, but I can't really remember what it is. I listened to it on audiobook. It was on Scribd, if you subscribe to Scribd and want to check it out. But this is following someone who used to be in an MLM, and not just used to be in an MLM, but was a pretty high-ranking person in an MLM. And we are following basically her story of how she got in it, and how it kind of was this destructive force in her life, and how it affected other people around her, how she got out of it, all that kind of stuff. And then also attempting to tackle bigger picture issues surrounding MLMs and the white supremacist capitalistic nature of them. And I think the author has a really good narrative voice. I listened to the audiobook, and I think it's narrated by her, and I just could not stop. I just wanted to continue on and see what happened. She has a strong narrative voice, and it was just really fascinating. I will say where the book lost me a little bit is mainly when it was trying to tackle the bigger picture issues of MLMs, and tying it to white supremacy and capitalism and all that stuff, and it just felt like she wasn't quite there. You know what I mean? A white person on their, I don't know, their woke journey, who's, kind of, having to unlearn things, but they're, still, I mean, obviously, it's always a never-ending journey, right? But, early on in that journey, where you're still kind of unlearning things, and you haven't, fully, you're just, not quite there yet. You know what I mean? That's just how it felt. I think particularly at the end, where it seemed it felt like she was kind of hesitant to fully condemn MLMs. I don't know. And when she briefly touched on the fact that she watched people who she considered friends go down an alt-right pipeline, especially during COVID. And it just felt oh, well, that sucks. And I'm all right. Okay, I don't know. It didn't really hit for me. I do still recommend you checking out, because I think it's really fascinating, especially when she's talking about herself and her own story. But it lost me when she was trying to tackle, systemic issues. So I think I landed around a 3-star for this one. But still, I was pretty much on a romance kick, I feel for the first half of July. So I finally picked up Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. I feel everyone has read this book, at least on the sides of Bookstagram and Book Talk that I'm on. Everyone has read it, everyone has loved it. And I just, I was looking at my shelves, and I was you know what? It's time. And man, did I love this book. It was so much fun to read. I think that this is or this should be the true definition of new adult romance. I feel a lot of the times you think indie books that deal with darker topics and that really are just spicy YA. And I just feel that's fine, I guess. I don't know. It's always just really young people getting into really wild ass circumstances and doing wild ass shit. And I'm just like, why are they always 18? You know? Why are they always barely legal in these situations? But anyways, that aside, what I really enjoyed about this and why I think that this should really be like the pinnacle of new adult is that it's set in a college. We have college age students that feel like actual college students, okay? Like, there were moments that were spicy. I don't know, I wouldn't say that there's like full-on sex scenes all that much in this book, but you know, there was like some spicier moments. It was cute. The romance was cute. The couple had really great chemistry, and it was a fun, good time. Like, it felt like college, you know what I mean? So this is following Kiki, who is a sophomore at her university. She has a popular student radio show where she gives kind of like romance advice and just other kinds of like, I don't know, fun advice. And she ends up warning the girlies of her college against this new student named Malachi, and she's like branding him a fuck boy, all this shit. And then she ends up meeting him, and it turns out that that's not really the case. She has to work with him because they share a teacher like mentor, and he is like trying to get into like a film festival, and she is trying to get this like internship in New York. And so the way that she has to do that is by increasing her viewers and showing that she can work with others. So she ends up working with him, and they fake date for this purpose. And it's just really cute. It's really cute. It's a good time. I had a good time. I had a great time. I loved it. I want this to be a movie. I think that would be such a fun movie to watch. And yeah, I'm just excited. It actually got chosen to be the August book for my local book club. So I'm excited to talk about it with everybody. And I highly, highly recommend. I give this one 4.5 stars. Next, I'm going to not talk about this book too much because I read it for a video that I'm planning on filming and posting after this, where I read books that were recommended to me based on my zodiac sign, and this was one of them, Pure Color by Sheila Heti. I don't even know where to begin in describing what this book is about because I have no fucking clue. This has to be like one of the most bizarre books I've ever read, and I don't know that I say that in a good way, if that makes sense, because I've read other weird books, and that's usually like a positive signal to me, but in this case I don't know. But I will talk about this more in that video. Yeah, I was recommended a book on Kindle. I was just on there. A book was recommended to me. It was on Kindle Unlimited, and I had heard one of a book talker that I follow talk about this book, and she loves it, and I trust her judgment. So I downloaded it, and that book happens to be Railed by the Easter Bunny. And you know what? I had a good time. Was it peak literature? No. It was 60 pages. I read it. I digested it. I had a good time. And really, what more can I ask for? I will be continuing on with this series. I will, yeah. 3 stars? But like, a positive 3 stars. Like, I mean, what does 3 stars mean? I feel like there's like disappointing 3 star, and then there's like, I feel indifferent towards this 3 stars, and then there's like positive 3 stars. So for me, it's like a positive 3 star. Yeah, anyways. I finally picked up Yellowface, and this copy she's banged up. I took her to the beach. She's been in my bag around town. So it's a little banged up, a little beaten up. But, you know, isn't that what a good book is supposed to be? You know, it's seen life, you know. Anyways, I did pick up Yellowface. I'm very shocked if you've not heard about this book or don't know what it's about, but we are following our main character, June Hayward, who is a white lady who is an author. And she has another author friend named Athena Liu, who is like a literary darling. Much like R.F. Kuang might be. She's a literary darling. You know, all her books are like getting adapted, blah, blah, blah. She's really successful in the ways that June is not. One day, you know, they're having drinks, they're talking. Athena dies right in front of her. She chokes on a pancake. What a way to go. It's terrible. She has just shown June her new work in progress that she just finished. No one knows about this besides June. June steals the manuscript. June passes it off as her own. She gets a big deal. She uses her middle name as her last name, so that her author name is now Juniper Song, which gives a little ambiguity, if you will. She's writing a book about Chinese miners during World War II or World War I, I can't recall. And so we kind of just watch that happen. This was a wild ride. Truly, it was a wild ride. It was a wild time. I think I land around a 3.5 with this one. I understand what R.F. Kuang was going for. I just personally feel like it's very heavy-handed, and that's not... I prefer more like nuance in stories like these. And I don't begrudge this book for being heavy-handed, because I feel like that was the intent. But it just, like, was never going to work for me personally. Like, it was never going to be, like, a 5-star. And I don't know. I feel a little bit at a loss of, like, how I feel about this book. I don't know. If y'all have read this, particularly if you're a person of color, I would love to know your thoughts on this book, because I feel, like, very mixed about it. I love R.F. Kuang. I will continue to be reading her books. She's great, you know, but I don't know that this book was for me personally, but I would still recommend it, so you can see my confusion. And the final book that I read for July was The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. This is the third book in the Kiss Quotient series. The Kiss Quotient was actually one of the first adult contemporary romances that I read, like, when I was, like, getting back into reading and starting, you know, this channel and book content creation, I guess. So it kind of has, like, a special place in my heart, even though it wasn't a favorite at the time necessarily. And also, I think if I were to reread it, I might, like, lower my rating, just because I, like, my preference in the genre has expanded so much, and I know more of, like, my taste now. But that being said, I was very excited to get to this book, but I had been, you know, delaying it. This book came out, like, I think almost 2 years ago now. I liked The Kiss Quotient. I didn't love The Bride Test, so that kind of gave me pause. And then also seeing the reviews coming in for this book also gave me a little bit of pause, because a lot of people were just talking about how much more emotional and sadder this book is compared to the rest of the series, and from what they were expecting, especially because one of the main characters, Quan, is, like, a favorite, like, side character from these previous books, and he's kind of like a bad boy, like, very loud, very confident. And so I feel like, me included, and much like everyone else, we were excited to read his romance story. But this book was just a little bit more emotional and, like, subdued. So I think that's what gave a lot of people pause. I will say, I think this might be my favorite of the three, now that I'm thinking about it, although there is something that happens towards the end that I really did not like, that prevented me from fully being on board with this book. This is another book that I read as a recommendation for my zodiac sign, so I'm going to kind of leave it at here, and I'll talk more about it in that video. But yeah, I think I'd give this, like, a 3.75 star. I'm not sure. We'll talk more about it later. those are all of the books that I read in July. I'd love to know your thoughts on any of these books. If you read them, let me know what your favorite was that you read in July. Let me know what your plans are for August. Let's chat. Let's have a good time. You can find me, like I mentioned, over on TikTok, on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter and Threads. I guess I'm everywhere. Give me a follow if you want. And I will catch y'all in the next video.